Are you too busy to create the content? Of course, yes, you are. You've got your life, your job, your kids, your family, and everything and anything that needs your attention on daily basis. There's office work, maybe client work, errands to run, and everything else that is piling up. With so much on your plate, it seems impossible to find time to create content. I honestly get it. There is so much that you should be doing, like eating better, living healthier, staying active, being productive. So, are you too busy to work on your channel and make videos? Absolutely, unless you make it super simple that you cannot not do it. Now, let me share you 3 practical tips to help you simplify content creation. These aren't just quick hacks, but these are actually working strategies to make sure that even with your hectic schedule, you are able to produce content on a regular basis. First, ask yourself, how can you make it easy? Making content, it doesn't have to get complicated. For instance, I used to stress about when I started having a desk set up for myself. I stressed about having a camera. I already have this microphone from last year, which has been working perfectly fine for me. But then I started looking into the gears and everything, but then I stopped. And then there was also a point where I started looking into how can I create shorts videos as well, because those are the ones which are working really well on YouTube. But then I realized I don't have to complicate it. The best I can put out based on my schedule is 1 video per week with the life that I'm living, with all the priorities that I have in hand. And then that's what I am now focusing on. Let me tell you, when you try to diversify your focus on so many things at the same time, it gets exhausting. For instance, trying to fit a powerful message and squeeze it into like 30 seconds of the video, it's just not something which would work for me. And then that's why I never had any plans for either of my channels to create 30 seconds or the script for the 30 seconds. So what I did, instead of relying on the shorts, is I found a middle ground. Let me put the camera back so that I can comfortably record. So now that I have put the camera back and now my arm is not hurting anymore, I can tell you guys, making it complicated adds more time. So instead what I did is I found the middle ground. I started making videos which are long enough to be meaningful but short enough that they don't feel overwhelming while I am filming them. This isn't about aiming for creating viral content every time, but rather about creating something that you can manage even without pulling your hair out. So for instance, right now, I'm at my desk, I just finished up my work, and then before I go and pick up my daughter, I'm doing this video in 15 minutes. A very simple trick, keep your notes handy while you're filming. It could be a Notion or it could be on your notepad, like pen and paper. You don't have to worry about memorizing everything. Just jot down the key points and keep them near the camera. This way, you're not stopping every few seconds to keep on remembering what you wanted to say. Just make it easy for yourself. Tip number 2, especially for beginners, is focus on quantity over the perfection. Especially for beginners, coming from a beginner, do not aim for perfections. Focus on the quantity and the consistency. The example that I'm going to use is of Mr. Beast. He's got 300 million plus subscribers today, and every video of his pulls crazy numbers. But do you recall what he said was the key to get started on YouTube? His sole advice for the new YouTubers is to get their first 100 videos as quickly as possible. Why? Because the more you create, the more you learn. Each video you create, and then that's very honest with me as well. Each video that I create, it teaches me something. And then each video that you will create, it will teach you something. It could be about the style, what works and what doesn't work, about how to engage with the audience. And then for the very beginners who have not created the video, like recording itself is a teaching. Like how to record, where to look for the cameras between the iPhones, on your phone or on your camera, which camera angle that you want. Like those are all teachings that you want to get as soon as possible within your first 100 videos. If you keep on waiting for the perfect idea or the perfect time, or even if you try to get everything right before filming it, you will never hit the record button and you will never get started. So the goal here is to keep creating. Don't worry about every video being a masterpiece. All you have to focus on in the beginning is get more content. The more content you put out there, the more you will improve. Tip number 3 is, if at any point of the video creation process or a step, you feel this is taking more time, or rather this is getting complicated or overwhelming for you, take a step back. And then this is where tip number 3 comes in. Ask yourself, how can you simplify this? Ask yourself, what if this was simple? It's so easy to overcomplicate things, especially when it comes to content creation. But wait, what if it didn't have to be that way? What if you can just skip the extra steps and then just focus on the basics for your learning? For instance, my personal learnings, I'm not focusing on any of the updated gear, at least for next year or so. In my opinion, don't stress about having the perfect gear or the perfect setup for your video creation. Maybe your phone's camera is good enough. Maybe you can edit it with a simple app rather than complicated softwares, or just like me, you can outsource your video editing. The key is to remove as many barriers as possible. The simpler you make it, the more likely you are to stick with it. For me personally, simplifying meant outsourcing my editing because I know how much time editing would require. Right off the bat, after my first video, my editing has been outsourced through Fiverr or Upwork. And that had made my workflow easier, not more complicated. By making things simpler, I'm not just to make more content, I'm also enjoying the process a lot more. So for instance, I really look forward to the different style of editing that I'm experimenting with different editors through Fiverr, but I'm liking the process. So let's recap. You're busy, I know that. But by making the content creation easier, focusing on quantity and consistency over perfection, by simplifying the entire process, you can still make great content even with your packed schedule. Just don't overthink it. Just start it. The easier you make it, the more you will create. And the more you create, the better you will get. Thanks for watching, and I'm keeping it simple.